I'm delighted to say today we are joined by James Mills, former advisor to Jeremy Corbyn, and Emily Carver, Conservative commentator. Folks, welcome to the show. First of all, James, I believe congratulations are in order because you are a father.
Thank you very much. I was expecting that. Yes, my son Senan, Joseph Anarin Bevan. He's named after Anarin Bevan. Mills was born last week. I couldn't be on your show. So.
Wonderful news in dark times. Lovely name. And whilst we don't always agree on everything, James, I can say that little boy's father is a very decent and very principled man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very kind thing. I think so you, Mark.
Well, God bless you. And sometimes right. My new catchphrase on this show is everyone's right and everyone's wrong. You know, and the truth is somewhere in the middle.
You hear this, Emily?
I'm going to give you good luck with that. I'm going to give you a bit of light relief. We'll start with the BBC because the BBC's new chairman has been announced, and it's former Goldman Sachs banker Richard Sharp. I can tell that James is already loving this. He will succeed Sir David Clementi as BBC chairman. His appointment comes amid a debate about the BBC licence fee and how the broadcaster is facing competition from streaming services. Now, this man, Mr. Sharp, was once Chancellor Rishi Sunak's boss. So, James, I'm guessing you're not liking the flavour of this.
I mean, I think any normal, reasonable person will think this stinks to high heaven of sort of like corruption and the rest of it. I mean, not only is his boss, this is a multi-millionaire former banker who was so not only his boss, he was also someone who's donated hundreds of thousands of pounds to the Conservative Party. I mean, you know, could you imagine in any other normal walk of life that being justifiable and okay? We don't know what his views are on the BBC, but we do know he's good mates with Rishi Sunak, and we do know that he's good friends with a whole lot of people in the Conservative government he supports. It's a political appointment to a state broadcaster. Okay, yeah, it's the chair, but still it's the influence and the signal it sends. I think it's terrible personally, and but the problem is it's not a one-off. These things have been happening all the time under this government. If it goes to Dario Hyland, to everyone else, if you're friends with number 10 or number 11 or friends with people in Downing Street, you get a job and you get a well-paid job and you get looked after. And it's jobs for the boys and it stinks and it shouldn't happen under any government.
But was it not ever thus, James? Under New Labour, we saw a lot of cronyism, didn't we?
I mean, it doesn't matter if it happened on the New Labour or any. I mean, are you asking someone who's going to defend Tony Blair's?
Good luck with
the wrong
that.
Person. I'm going to say the wrong person who's going to defend Tony Blair's record at these sort of things. But I mean, look, it happened a lot. If I was honest with you, it happens under a lot of big majority Tory governments. It happened really badly before Tony Blair with John Major. I mean, Mr. Hamilton, which was a household with UKIP and others, they had a name for themselves, let's just say, for nefarious behaviour, as it were. When it was in that, you had cash for questions, you had sort of dodgy envelopes being handed over to Tory MPs. It happened previously under the last majority Tory government. It seems like the more polite version of it, where it's happening with jobs for the boys, and they tend to always be boys, unless they're married to friends of the boys, and it's those kind of jobs that are going, and it's wrong, and it shouldn't happen under any government. These things should be open and transparent. In my view, I think it should be more. These things should be open to having a public consultation, say, for stuff like chairs. These organisations.
Emily Carver, this is a guy who reached the top of business, former Goldman Sachs banker. That would tell us that he is both a strategic genius and just a very, very clever guy. So what's the problem?
Yes, I don't know too much about Richard Sharp beyond the headlines that I've read today of him. And of course, I take James's point. It does smack of nepotism. There's certainly a touch of cronyism. But as you said, Mark, this reminds us of the Blair years when all the quangos were packed full of Blairite cronies, weren't they? So as you said, it's ever thus. But I think the wider point, this really is a critical time for the BBC. They're facing so many challenges. They're under pressure to adapt and evolve, as you said, because of different streaming services that are now available. The license fee debate rages on. And of course, there are daily accusations of political bias. So this really needs to be a turning point for the BBC if it's going to be sustainable into the future, really. And it's no small job. So hopefully this Richard Sharp has the experience and the knowledge and the competence to get it done well.
Well, many people think that discussing how the BBC is paid for is somehow to attack the BBC, Emily. But actually, if you really love the BBC and want it to be there for the foreseeable future, you've probably got to look at its funding model, because as long as it remains a public tax, it's going to become more and more unpopular.
Well, yes, I mean, we've seen through well, the last couple of years, we've seen polling that's showing that people are really anti this way of funding the BBC. And although there is support for the BBC, and though people continue to watch the BBC and use their services every day, people don't like the way it's funded. And as you said, if the BBC is going to be sustainable, it needs to adapt its funding model and move towards a different type of funding. What that looks like, I'm not sure, but it could move towards a more subscription style model that's more, up to date and more sustainable into the future.
Well, where are you at, Emily, with this? Are you defund the BBC? Are you scrap the BBC? What's your view? What would you do?
You know, Mark, I'm not so dogmatic about this. I'm not a defund the BBC. I do think the BBC serves a purpose. I would like to see it streamlined. I'd like it to stop being so politically biased and so woke, for want of a better word. I think the BBC has been shown to be very biased, particularly over the whole Brexit debate, and now also with the lockdown debate. So I think the BBC does need to change. I think its funding model does need to change, and I'd like to see it streamlined, because at the moment it's spending billions, hundreds of millions of pounds on services that very few people are using.
Now, Emily, it would appear that you're much funnier than Mrs. Brown's boys, because James is chuckling away at your answers there.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
Well, look, let me see. When me and Emily agree, look, if I was I want to reform the BBC. I'd reform it. I think take this thing with the chair. What I would do, have a short list and have license fee payers have a vote in it, and the vote could then. And then if someone from Emily's perspective wants to go run on a sort of slash the ticket, slash the sort of the license fee, then so be it. But I'd open up to the public. I think democracy is your best transparency.
Not another referendum, James. Not another public vote.
No, but I think if you're paying for it, you should have representation in it, and therefore you should have a say in it, and not leave it up to government who can slice and dice. I actually think that what would be a really good reform as well is, like, I don't like seeing all these big celebrities on big money. I'd rather you had a situation where they were about securing talent, getting young talented producers in, young people you don't know, because the thing the BBC has is a monopoly of the button one, and while it has that, people always turn onto it. When I watch Match of the Day, I don't need to see Gary Neville or a former footballer. I could equally see a young talented sports person who's retired at an injury come through. I don't need to see these people. That's what the private sector does well. The private sector can pay lavish sums for these individuals because they need to attract viewers. The BBC has monopoly of this, and in my view, I think I'd get rid of the funding structures on the salaries. It tries to compete with private sector broadcasters too much, and what it should be doing is public service. And one of the great things it's done only this week, which Emily, you might want to review your views, is providing on CBeebies educational services for children. So my children who can't go to primary school this week are able to watch CBeebies to get educational value out of it, and it helps those kids, 700,000 in fact in the country, who don't have laptops or internet access, to still get a lesson.
Well, I mean, we're in danger of reaching a unanimous agreement here, James. I mean, my suggestion in terms of a funding model, I honestly do not think that in the light of streaming services, you have obviously, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Apple TV Plus, that charging people to watch the BBC out of this public tax is sustainable in the long term. I just don't think it's possible. And I actually think it puts the BBC under unnecessary and unwarranted scrutiny and pressure. What I would suggest, James, is a bit of a statist idea, which is that the BBC is drastically reduced in its scope, focusing on less commercial output and education, and coming out of general taxation. What do you think of that?
I mean, I just don't think I think the problem with the general taxation, I think it's always going to have to be a level of top up maybe. But I think the problem with the level of taxation is that, like, especially going into the next decade, there's going to be a shortage of resources. And are you really going to be saying, look, should we not building a new school or a hospital or funding something because we've got to fund the BBC? Now, you can have that argument if you're also going to say you're going to raise taxes to pay for it. But the argument of raising taxes to support the BBC or entertainment, paying for Strictly Come Dancing, is going to be tough. I mean, my view is I think you reform.
But we do already, though, James. But we do already, don't we? Through the license fee.
Look, so I'll be honest with you, as I say, I've got a subscription to Netflix. And I've got, and the BBC's a lot cheaper, and you get a lot more drama. So you do actually get good value for money, the BBC. All I would say is that I think that if I was going to reform it, I'd make it more reflective of the people who pay that license fee, give the people license fees more of a say and more influence over it, and also strip out some of these big celebrities on big salaries. You don't need them. It just infuriates people. And these are simple reforms you could do. And I think you'd find enough money by doing little things like that, by getting more, the license fee payers have a say over what they want to see on TV, because that's another issue. There's lots of programs. I agree. There's lots of programs there that you probably don't necessarily, why do I need to see Strictly Come Dancing necessarily on the BBC? Why can't ITV do that? But it doesn't mean I don't want to have any Saturday night entertainment, but does it have to be in competition with what's on ITV? I don't think it needs to be.
Emily,
to be honest, looking at future generations, I think the BBC is going to have to streamline its services, come what may. I mean, if you look at younger generations, they're completely switching off from the BBC. You talk about the CBBS output, that's great, but there are already private companies delivering that sort of service at the moment. So while that is a good idea and that is something that people might celebrate the BBC for doing, it's not specific to the BBC itself. And I think that with the amount of competition that there is now, the BBC isn't this sort of, isn't this amazing product that it has been in the past. It just simply isn't.
Well, Emily, go for it.
I'd throw in a BBC Sport. Why can't we have a BBC Sports channel that therefore gets all these sports that currently are like from county cricket up to like local football that don't get covered on TV? Sometimes in contracts pushed them out, and put them on those channels and front and centre. Why, I'd be doing that, using your resources to push rugby league in this country, for example. I live in the north of England, and internationally, rugby league's brilliant and really well covered outside our own country. It has a Sky contract, but we should be pushing that more on the big public sector broadcaster and prime time slots, our own BBC Sports channel. And therefore, people hate sport, therefore watch 1 and 2.
I think that's right. Darts and bowls and tiddlywinks. Tiddlywinks is so underfunded.
It's just going to be a platform for all the things that people aren't that interested in then.
But final thought, guys. Final thought as a clock against us. Important, and I think James raises a valid point. I think important final thought, Emily and James, which is that be careful what you wish for, wouldn't you say? Because we can all agree that we are patriotic and that we're very proud of the creativity that comes out of these islands. And our TV correspondent, Chuck Thomas, joins me every Saturday night for Media Watch, where we talk about the big stories from the world of TV. And he said that the iPlayer is actually very, very popular. So perhaps that's the way for the BBC to go forward. We have to be careful, Emily, that if we're too tough on the BBC, the brave new world without a BBC is US media giants providing all of our content, and no one wants that.
Well, under a different funding model, the BBC would be free to, sell its services across the world and make money in that way. Because as you say, it is a strong brand. It is a brand that people trust around the world. The BBC World News is so well respected across the globe. So to be able to sell that abroad could be a big money spinner for the BBC. So there's lots of options, but I wouldn't want the BBC to be completely defunded and shut down. No, I'm not that skeptical.
James, quick final word.
My view is it already does some of those things that Emily says. I think that reforming the BBC is about opening up to people that make it in the hands of people that watch the BBC. Take those boring sports and make them anew, make people want to watch them. Take the boring issues and make them interesting. That's what it's there for, public good. Don't try and compete with private sector providers of entertainment, because why? You don't need to, unless you add value or you bring in through new talent.
James, congratulations on the arrival of young Sean Mills. Apparently it's nappy change time. So, Sean, sorry, my hearing is not as good. Congratulations. And he has now been celebrated on the national airwaves. A fine, handsome young lad, I'm sure he is. Emily Carver as well, thank you so much for joining us.